Welcome inside the Glory Road podcast. Billy Beebe back with you for another edition of what has been a busy NBA podcast season. I am welcoming back in Matt Beck, my guy, to do a little bit of discussion on another trade name that is out there big time. Guys, if you get the chance, I know situation has changed and we'll see what happens, but go back and check out the Andre Drummond podcast we did. I don't know that he's going to get traded, but first off, Matt, let's welcome him in. What's up, big guy?
How's it going, man? Thanks for having me. Excited to do another pod.
It doesn't look like Drummond's getting traded, right? I think we got a buyout.
Yeah, you hate to see it, but whatever. Kobe Altman's going to be Kobe Altman.
We wasted an hour of our life, 2 hours of our life, breaking it down. We're talking Kyle Lowry today, NBA champ. At this point, maybe the most historic Raptor. You got Carter, DeRozan.
Yeah, I'd have to lean Vince, but yeah, he's been a Raptor for a long time.
Yeah,
for sure.
See, here's the thing. I think he'll be at as many years in Toronto as Vince, but he'll have a title and he'll have no messy exit, which I think will work in his favor.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. I feel like
it's
Vince Carter's big name.
Matt, this guy's on the block. Number one. Number two, he's publicly spoken that he has been told and he has agreed that there is a trade happening.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that he's still playing and is willing to come back and play.
Yeah, he's not drumming the Raptors.
Right. Blake Griffin.
Well, the Cavs did it too. They sat Drummond, right?
It's like a code. I think they agreed. Yeah, they agreed on it. Blake Griffin, of course, agreed he'd sit too. The March 25th date is the key to watch. That's the deadline, so teams have to kind of get their stuff together. So we're going to do 5 teams. 5 teams that we're looking at, we're thinking Kyle Lowry should go to. The money is the key here. I want to say this, Matt, I get your opinion in there, but I feel like teams are more willing to cling to their pieces this year. When we list the guys that are on the trade market, I think we hit a lot of names where it's like, yeah, they could trade him, but there's probably a good chance they hang on to him, especially with another playoff spot open with the play-in tournament. So, for example, the Bulls are more interested to push for a 5 seed and keep Thaddeus Young rather than in past seasons trade him and see what they can get. I'm going to say the same for Harrison Barnes, for John Collins in Atlanta, names like that. In my opinion, Lowry's not one of them. It seems like they're willing to deal him. He wants out, and teams want him. What do you think about the trade deadline this year?
I mean, if you're a team that's on the bubble, not in the bubble, but on the playoff bubble, it makes sense to try to go for another guy that might, give you those couple extra wins that gets you in there. But I also completely understand teams in another weird COVID-impacted season just kind of holding on to their guys and just kind of turtling and just kind of chilling out and waiting to see what happens with the free agency, this upcoming free agency and the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think John Collins is the ultimate example of that. The Hawks won some early games because DeAndre Hunter was playing so well. He gets hurt. Now they're kind of like, do we want to pay John Collins? Do we not want to pay John Collins? Is he worth it? DeAndre Hunter's still not back. It's very confusing, but it looks like that's the situation. They're just going to hold on, I think, for that. The Kings, I don't know about Buddy Hield. I don't know about Harrison Barnes. Some other weird situations for teams like even Oklahoma City, Al Horford, like they might just ride that out. I don't even think they're going to push hard to trade a guy like that. So a very weird deadline. And I will say this, NBA fans, do not get upset if it's just a pass-by day with a trade that gets done, a day or two before and then nothing the day of, because it just seems like that's how it's going to go. Back to Lowry, who I theorize could be traded sooner rather than later. I know he's kind of flying under the radar a little bit with it. We're going to do 5 teams, like I said. I'm going to do mine. Matt's going to do one of his. I got 3. He's got 2, so we're going to shift back and forth. Matt, I chose a team that, as my number 1, that you wouldn't expect. If you had to guess, though, who do you think it is?
Well, I have some prior information. But probably Philly.
Good guess, but no. Number 1 team I want to see him go to has the assets, good fit, Denver.
Nugget Fever.
Yes, Nugget Fever. Kyle Lowry to the Nuggets. I love it. I like the mix here, okay, of both teams, what they get out of it and whatnot. So Denver's in a rut, okay. They were hoping Michael Porter Jr. could be a big thing for them this year. He hasn't. He has gotten COVID twice. He's been out. Um, as big as he can play, he plays inconsistently. So really, we're looking at the same team for the third year in a row, and plus the bubble, they're coming out slow. So Lowry would jump in. He's looking for a second ring. We know he's a bit of like a bruiser, a guy that has that attitude about him, that meanness, and could really motivate this team to get it going. So a couple different names that I think fit in here, Matthew. But money-wise, I love that there's not much debate that it'll work money-wise. So you start off with Jokic at 30 mil and Jamal Murray at about 30 mil. But these next three names are so key. Gary Harris, Will Barton, and JaMychal Green. So Harris makes 19, Will Barton makes 13, and JaMychal Green makes 7. So that's perfect. So my first trade was Kyle Lowry for Gary Harris and JaMychal Green, and then you add in a young name that'll benefit the Raptors after that, right? So then you can, again, take your pick for young guys that the Raptors could get out of this. Bol Bol's one, RJ Hampton, their new rookie point guard, or Kundo Campazzo. He's kind of an early Ricky Rubio-ish point guard. Not quite the scorer, but so your initial thoughts on that, and I think it works for both sides. I think there's a lot of money options, names they can swap in and out. They could even add, hey, we want Campazzo and Bol Bol or and RJ Hampton. Your thoughts on that first trade?
I think Raptors throw in a second round pick or two, and I think that could happen. I would be very interested to see the Jamal Murray, Kyle Lowry backcourt. I wonder how that would kind of work out. One thing I wanted to talk about is I'm just not sure what Kyle Lowry's value is. I not that it's bad or good. I genuinely I kind of was looking at his numbers, and I'm real curious to see with the deadline coming up what teams are willing to give for him. But right off the bat, I have to say I think if you're Denver looking at this, like I said, maybe add a couple picks. I definitely think that could be something they would look at just to throw a freaking wrench in the gears, like you said, to try to change something up, because you're either going to keep being a 3 seed and just get worse and worse and worse, or you're going to change something up and hope you strike lightning and maybe, make a deep run. So I like it. I like it off the rip.
Before we keep going, we should add 18 points a game, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds this year for Lowry, who's making $30 million. His 3-point percentage, he's shooting 40% from 3, which obviously is really good. And overall, his percentages are solid. You like what you're seeing from him. And then again, I don't discredit the fact that, number one, this is a hardworking guy with an attitude that I think can inspire a team. And man, the ring on his finger says a lot. I know there's a Kawhi involvement with that championship, but Lowry was awesome in that series. And I think any team would kind of gain a little bit of more respect with him on it, and that locker room would turn for him a little bit. I think Denver needs that big time.
I don't know what Jokic – I haven't really heard amazing things about Jokic locker room leadership, like what that is for them. So I think Kyle Lowry could probably step into that role. It just depends on what the Denver front office values that out. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Go ahead with your first team.
So I was thinking kind of what teams are willing to make a push right now. And obviously the Raptors, they're not really doing super hot this season, 17 and 20. They're definitely not on the up and up. So I figured they would maybe try to go for a trade that just gives them a better future, pretty much, or at least a better look at a better future. So I did the Heat. Obviously, the Heat were in the finals in the bubble. Still a really solid team. And I did Dragic, Bradley, and then I just kind of put in there, add a bench player, that whatever makes the money work, for Kyle Lowry and some second-round picks. Again, second-round picks, the value isn't super great for the Raptors. So this way they dump the Kyle Lowry contract. They do pick up Dragic, but he's on a 2-year, $18 million, so it's really nothing crazy. Bradley is super cheap for $5 million for 2 years. And then, like I said, you throw in any 1-year bench player. Preferably a young guy for the Raptors, but any 1-year bench player, I think this could work. The Heat get a little bit of extra scoring, which they've talked about. They definitely could use the extra scoring. the Raptors get rid of Lowry, and then they get in some young, new influx of some guys, and I think it could work out for both teams. So, what are your thoughts?
I do like that a lot. Obviously, Miami is like one of the biggest suitors. I think same thing. They have a couple contracts that would easily fit in a dish situation. Here's my problem. I think Miami is going to try as hard as they can to buckle down and not get rid of Dragic.
You
I
think so?
really like him. I think they feel like he stabilizes them as an offense and as a team.
Who would you substitute then? Just out of curiosity.
That's the tough part. But man, you should be. It'd be tough, but Olynyk, Iguodala, and then Precious Ochua would probably be the trade. And losing Iguodala really stinks because I watched a game a couple weeks ago and he looked great at guarding LeBron still. I mean, that matchup is still incredible. So he can give you something. Obviously, Miami's going to be a huge player, so good ideas there.
And Miami's been pretty well known to go for the big moves. So I definitely
Yeah.
could see something coming out of Miami.
Yeah, I actually did a podcast 2 years ago. Yes, right when they signed Jimmy about Pat Riley and how, especially in these later years, he just has had no chill with going for it. Yeah, Olynyk's on the Heat because like this guy literally could not waste a year of Dwayne Wade's career. Did not want to do it. Did not want to waste a year of his career. So he's paying James Johnson. He's paying Deion Waiters. He's paying like anybody to keep it. You can go back and listen to that podcast on the Glory Road Spotify account. That one was a fun one just to recount how Pat Riley had he has no chill to just completely flip the roster. Even in the Heat's first championship mid-season, he brings in Jason Williams, Antoine Walker, James Posey, just flips the roster, Gary Payton, to get him to a title. So Pat Riley, no doubt, like you said, will go for it. Matthew, my second team is one flying under the radar. I would say this is unlikely, but I still kind of like it, and that is the Indiana Pacers. Same reason. It's the same team, it feels like, for 3 years. Now they're going to get Karis LeVert back this week, right? And it's clear Sabonis is awesome. Turner also very, very good this year. But, man, there's some middle ground there where they have so many contracts that they should be okay parting with. And the first one is definitely Miles Turner at $18 million. TJ Warren's making $12 million. This is the key one that's definitely going to go in any deal is Jeremy Lamb. So with those guys, and then you have a couple young players that I think you could kind of swap out and do give and goes and here's and there's with. The key one, though, I think that if you're doing this trade, they would is definitely Holiday. I think it's Justin. Yeah, Justin Holiday. They have him on a 3-year deal right now. He's young. He's proven himself. So really, I think the trade we're looking at would probably be Miles Turner, Jeremy Lamb, and Holiday for Lowry and, say, Aaron Baines or Chris Boucher. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be pretty good for the Raptors. My only thing is, like, what do they do with Brogdon if they don't trade him?
Yeah, that's a good point. I would like a Lowry Brogdon lineup though. That's my thing. I don't think Karis.
And then where does you think Karis goes on the bench? Like
yeah, I don't think Karis LeVert. He's had such a weird season that there's forcing this guy to play, or Brogdon off the bench. Brogdon's been good, but over Lowry, who clearly will just give everything to you that you need. Like this is the point. This is the closest thing to like Chris Paul. I think he's like a lesser version of Chris Paul, I think, in my opinion. I know they've had a tough year, but you add him to an already super talented team, he's going to take him up a notch. Maybe not Chris Paul's level because I love Chris Paul. He's done a lot of great things for the Suns, of course. But, he can have that effect. Like I said, 18, 7, and 5, I think, is what we said he was averaging. Incredible. Really, really good. I think that fits the Pacers nicely. And guys like Justin Holiday are playing good, but when you hit the playoffs and you play a team like Philly, that's a tough fit.
You have a 9-man rotation. It's kind of, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think on paper that sounds really good. They're just another one of those teams, like you're saying, kind of similar to the Nuggets. They could use that wrench in the gears just to kind of throw something around and change it up a little bit. And yeah, I think Lowry would be a good fit on there. If he were to stay where he's at right now with that team, I definitely think that team becomes that next level, like you're talking about. It brings them up that next level.
All right, hit me with your next one.
Yeah. So again, just was kind of thinking along the lines of what team is trying to make a push right now for that next spot, for that next level, and what could the Raptors get in return that would kind of help them out long term. So I was doing the Clippers, and just to prelude what I'm going to say here, I was looking around the NBA, and it was tough to find teams that could really use a point guard. But I kind of thought that the Clippers could. Like, obviously, I love Bev, but he's not exactly a ball control type point guard. So
Right.
I, looking at it on paper, the money worked out for Morris Senior, Beverly, and then again just substituting a young bench player. And then maybe some deep picks. I know that the Clippers traded a bunch of picks with the Paul George business, but maybe some deep picks, and then the Raptors just send over Lowry and some second round picks. Just to kind of break that down a little bit more, I think that the Raptors could get a couple middle of the road contracts. Obviously, he's about 15 million for 4 years, so that's not super great. But then Bev is only 13 million for 2 more years, so you're going to lose that contract soon. And the Clippers get another player that could really help them out. I think could kind of facilitate for Kawhi and Paul George a little bit because they don't really have a facilitator. And then the Raptors get some picks back, and maybe, like I said, a bench player from the Clippers, just somebody young, just somebody to get young on the Raptors and maybe find some talent. And yeah, I think it could work out for both teams. So, what do you think, Billy?
The thing you're missing here is I just don't think that name you said, that young guy off the bench, is what you said. I just don't think the Clippers have it enough to entice them to do it. It would be Terrence Mann, who's been all right, but
Mm-hmm.
not good enough to make you pull the trigger.
So you don't think the Raptors would do it?
No, I don't think the Raptors would do it
Hmm.
because I mean other teams just offer you nicer, younger players. I mean, I'm just give away. I'll do Philly here in a second.
Mm-hmm.
They might have Matisse Thybulle involved. They might have Tyrese Maxey involved. Like I'd rather have those guys. Indiana, like I'd rather have Justin Holiday. Um, Denver, I'd rather have RJ Hampton. I'd rather have Bull Bull. I'd rather have, but the money's good.
Yeah.
And then it's clear if they're getting rid of Lowry, then it's a rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to have a name to attach at least a little bit to a rebuild. But I like the idea. I mean, the Clippers honestly would desperately go for Lowry. Like you said, they need a facilitator so bad. Let's jump to my last one here and our last one of the night. The much rumored Philadelphia 76ers. Lowry went to Villanova, so there's that connection overall. Daryl Morey traded for Kyle Lowry out of Memphis and made him a good little player before he had to move him again. Morey's going to be comfortable trading for him. And then, like I mentioned before, Matthew, we've got a nice mix of young players, contracts that fit, so on and so on. The 76ers are really going to have to squeeze this one. I mean, they're really going to have to squeeze every little bit. First off, we got to debate this, okay? Philly's hot. They've been hot all year. They played really well. What do you think about adding such a big piece into that equation?
What kind of big piece are we talking?
Lowry. I mean, adding
Okay.
Lowry to
I
that
thought you meant
team.
trading away. Yeah, it would be interesting to see that backcourt. I think it could relieve some pressure off Ben Simmons. The only worry is, I mean, Ben Simmons is a worse version of LeBron. Like Ben Simmons needs the ball to really do anything.
Right.
Because obviously he can't sit on the 3-point line and shoot. But I would be very interested to see what that would look like. I think it gives them some scoring that they could definitely use. I would be curious. I would be curious to see, especially depending on what the Sixers give up for Lowry. I'd be very interested to see kind of how Lowry would then fit into the team after that trade.
Yeah, I mean, you got to really deep dive into it, but I think the trade is something like Danny Green, Terrence Ferguson, Tony Bradley, and Tyrese Maxey. And I think even then it doesn't quite get close enough. So like the money is really a stretch here. I mean, Philly really has to devastate themselves. That one works. So it's Danny Green, Terrence Ferguson, Tony Bradley, and Tyrese Maxey. So I mean, they really got to stretch it. I mean, you're talking about
that's a rebuild trade though, for sure.
definitely, and they get Maxey, and Ferguson's all right, and Green's expiring. So really, they get Maxey out of it, and Philly gets a guy they're comfortable with. Yes, Ben Simmons needs the ball in his hand, but he's had it less and less, and it's worked more and more. So if you can completely say, Ben, we have a guy that he needs the ball, and he knows what to do with it, then I think that fits really well for Philly.
Maybe Lowry comes off the bench.
Possibly.
Maybe six-man role to just kind of run the bench. Not that he's a bench player. I'm just saying maybe it would fit best in that system that, maybe their lineup looks something like Ben Simmons, Seth Curry for the front court. And then, once those guys come out, you pull Lowry in just to keep the fire going. Or maybe he's a spark plug,
Right. Or you're going like, how does this lineup work? Okay, Lowry plays well with Tobias Harris, but not Ben Simmons. Like you just kind of test it out over time again and again. I love a Lowry, Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid lineup. That's disgusting. Yeah. I like that a lot, especially against Brooklyn. I just feel like Lowry can give Kyrie trouble.
I would be interested to see if they put Lowry at the 2 and kind of made him almost like another shooting guard. But that would just kind of some options,
Yeah. I like that idea too. I think that's a good bench lineup.
But they do have Seth Curry, who's like just an absolute ace. So
yeah. Matthew, we've gone over a ton of trades here. We've done all 5. What do you think? Which one do you like the most, and why?
If the money mattered less, I do like the Philly one a lot. I think that's a perfect situation where Philly gets another player to make that playoff, they make that championship run, and the Raptors kind of can try to get some players just to start rebuilding with. With the realism of the money, I'd probably have to lean towards. I think the Heat have some pretty good options in terms of money, and I like that trade too. The Heat are another team making a playoff push, and I think that they could get, if they got Lowry, it would be a really good piece for them. So,
yeah, man. After I said that lineup at the end, I love it. I really like him in Philly. I think
it would be tough to get him there. It would be tough to get him there, but if he were to get there, yeah.
Daryl Morey's the man to make it happen, though. The numbers guy and just the movement, the relationship. Man, Lowry, again, it's Lowry, Curry, Simmons, Harris, and Embiid. It's beautiful.
I'm all about that trade as long as they don't lose Shake Milton. All right.
They will keep Shake Milton. We love Shake Milton on the Glory Road podcast. And then, good point, Matthew. Let's look at what they would still have left. So then the bench is Dwight Howard, Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz, Matisse Thybulle, Mike Scott.
And then it just depends on where Lowry would be and all of that. But
and again, right. So like you said, you start games, you find lineups. Hey, Lowry doesn't play well with Ben. Okay, well, let's start the game like that. See how it's going. Especially in the playoffs, you really got to just game by game it and flip. Matthew likes the Miami deal. That would probably be 2 for me. You talked me into that because I feel like Jimmy just so badly wants a competitive winner.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. I didn't even bring that up. That right there would probably be a very good fit. Lowry and Jimmy, they kind of have that hard nose,
But let's keep in mind, Lowry might. We'll see what he gets as far as a decision, but Miami's still below 500 right now. He might just be like, hey, Philly's the best choice, Philly's best call, or LA or Denver. Hey, these are the best calls. They have the best records. They're the ones rising. Like, get me there. I don't want to take a risk with Miami. Miami's one injury away from really just being out of it.
Yeah.
They could get hot, of course, but other way around. Guys, thank you for tuning into the Glory Road podcast again. Go make sure you check out some other good content on my page, Billy Beebe. I got some NFL stuff going up right now. Matt, thanks for coming on. Beck EV Gaming, correct?
It's Beck Ev. Just Beck Ev.
Beck Ev Gaming. Matthew's posted some good stuff here and there. So Check that out. And guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and keep an eye on Kyle Lowry.